This podcast is sponsored by the Fargo-Moorhead West Fargo Chamber of Commerce. The Chamber is a catalyst for growth and prosperity and is here to protect and promote business, inspire innovation, cultivate communities, and influence action. Learn more at fmwfchamber.com.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Inforum Business Beat podcast. I'm your host, Thomas Avanella. Our team had a busy week before the 4th of July, so let's get you up to speed on the latest business news. Those who've long wanted a newly finished garage now have a new option at their disposal in the Fargo area. Dave Reek is the local franchisee of Hello Garage, a nationwide chain which specializes in refinishing garage floors and installing shelving. Reek promises floor-to-ceiling transformations for any garage. The secret, he said, is a polyaspartic coating on the floor which stands up better over time than usual epoxy. Novum Pharmaceutical Research Services has officially closed in Fargo. The forum received a tip from a reader that employees at the office had been laid off as part of the closing. Several attempts were made to confirm the closing, however Novum did not respond to the forum's inquiries. Novum still lists offices in Las Vegas and Toronto on their website. A young Fargo student has started her own business supplying a rare crop to high-end local eateries. Johanna Zink forages and sells ramps, a tricky-to-locate wild onion. Ramps combine the flavor of garlic and onions with a hint of sweetness. Because they're only grown at certain times of the year in the wild, they're highly sought after by chefs, including those at Birnbaum's and Rosewild. Selling ramps isn't Johanna's only business venture, however. She also runs a lemonade stand and takes her wagons to summertime events to sell popsicles. After years of sitting unoccupied, a replacement is on the way for North Fargo's Pizza Hut. A Caribou Coffee will open in the winter at 1207 19th Avenue North near the Fargo Dome. The Pizza Hut previously located there had been closed for nearly 2 years. A spokesperson for Caribou said the location will feature indoor and outdoor seating, as well as a drive-thru. City building permit records listed construction costs at $400,000. Business editor Angie Wick reported that a new plant paradise is opening in downtown Fargo. Botanical Brothers opened Friday, June 24th at 64 4th Street North. The store carries all things plants with over 4,000 lining the walls of the store. Botanical Brothers also carries a selection of rare varieties which can cost up to $1,000. The store is as much an experience as it is a chance to shop, owners Casey and Cal McCollum said. A new food truck is hitting the town, hawking paninis and grilled cheese sandwiches. Hot off the press is the latest food truck from Anthony Bachman, who also owns Fargo Phillies and Mac Daddy's. As the name suggests, the menu specializes in paninis and grilled cheeses, while the truck itself sports a newspaper theme. Hot off the press has a packed schedule planned for the summer, including appearances in Bismarck for Independence Day, the Downtown Fargo Street Fair, and WeFest. For a long time, Horace wasn't much more than a bedroom community for Fargo. That has changed quite a bit in the past few years with a new middle school, high school, and several different new businesses opening in the small town. Joining us today to discuss it is Inforum business reporter Helmut Schmidt. Helmut, thanks for coming on the show.
Hey, thanks for having me. How are you guys doing?
I'm good. How are you doing today, Helmut?
Awake, breathing, good side of the grass.
That's exactly what we wanted to hear. And so tell us, just to get started here, a lot of the new development, like I said, is we hear about it in South Fargo a lot. We hear about it in West Fargo. But you noted that there's a lot going on in Horace, and the city's making strides of its own. What were some of the things that you observed when you visited down there?
Well, in years past, like when I first got to this area, you'd go down to Horace, and it was really rural. It was a very small town, and just a nice place to raise your kids, but very quiet. Recently, I'd noticed that there'd been a couple of businesses opening down there. Thought I'd take a little trip down there just to see how things were going. And the first thing I noticed right away was there are a lot of houses going up. They're going up by the dozen. And I've kind of seen that in the last 2 years, seeing developments going up along the river and elsewhere. But when the new middle school and the new high school went in, just like you see in other cities, things started really ramping up. There's all sorts of housing developments going up around there. And like I said, when I'd gone up there a couple weeks ago, literally basements were being dug by the dozen. And that is really robust health in terms of housing market.
And it's all happening pretty quickly, as you've observed. And what do you think is the strong driving force behind all of this? You mentioned, obviously, the middle school and the high school, but are there other factors at play here?
I think so. In 1992, Horace and West Fargo completed a couple diversion channels, which are linked together, that move the river from the Cheyenne River around the city. And those have proven to be remarkably effective at keeping both cities safe during the big floods that have threatened the area. There's some cities suffered mightily. West Fargo and Horace managed to skate on through. Those diversions have worked very well, and they help you in terms of keeping down your costs when it comes to, say, flood insurance in a floodplain. If you're out of that floodplain, saves you a lot of money, and it saves you money having to possibly, raise the level of your house in terms of, how high you have to be above sea level in order to also, avoid flood insurance. So really, it's the land that is buildable and still reasonable to build on, and so there's that. That's one of the things when I talk with the city manager. He says we have the land. And also, quite simply, there are some people that very much like the rural lifestyle. You hear it almost all the time, people that maybe move to Mapleton, people that move to Castleton, Sabin, elsewhere. A lot of them grew up in small towns. They like the small town atmosphere. So places like Horace appeal to them.
And all the new construction that's going on in Horace, it's all well and good. It's definitely a lot to get excited about for the city. But did you hear of or find that there were any drawbacks or concerns that officials or residents had with all of this new development?
Yeah. Unfortunately, what happens when all these houses go up, of course, they need infrastructure. People want to be able to turn on the water at the tap. People want to be able to flush the toilets. They need their garbage picked up. They need roads. All that's got to be built. All that's got to be in place. And that costs money. Fortunately or unfortunately, if you're a homeowner, if you're building new, it's really nice to get what North Dakota allows, which is up to $150,000 in home valuation that's not taxed for the first 2 years of owning a home. If you're a city trying to pay for new roads, new sewer and water lines, things like that, that becomes more problematic, because if you say, like Horace, put in close to 300 homes in a year, that's a lot of infrastructure. And that, of course, has to be paid on the tax base that you have until those other taxes come online. That can be 20 to 24 months. Also, as we mentioned before, people like the small town feel. Well, when you start seeing a lot of traffic going up and down your main street, when you do start getting a lot of people into town, you begin to wonder, am I losing that feeling of a small town? Right now, the town sits at about 4,200 people for population. The mayor told me that could be very nearly 5,000 people by the end of the year. Small town, 800 people is no small thing. That's a lot of people to add on. And, they can all be good people, but suddenly you begin to worry, am I losing that small town feel? Are we losing the character of this place that we grew to love? So those are a couple of the worries there.
And that kind of leads perfectly into the next question that I had for you, is that Horace really seems to want to maintain its small town feel, like you said, and not become a destination like Fargo, Moorhead, or West Fargo. And that kind of seems to be what you found while you were visiting there.
Yeah, that's very much it. People like their town. They'd like. Everyone knows things don't stay the same forever and ever, but we like to hold on to the things that are close to our heart. And so, people like having new neighbors. They also want to be sure that the life that they have come to love is not overwhelmed by that. They don't want to necessarily become Fargo, Moorhead, West Fargo, where the pace becomes a lot more urban.
Right. And that is kind of starting to happen with some of the developments that you've talked about. I mean, your story mentioned the new medicine shop pharmacy that had opened down there. A Dairy Queen is coming. A Sanford clinic is coming. Are there any other items beyond that are kind of on the wish list for Horace, so to speak, going forward?
Well, Horace definitely has some wish list items. Maybe top of that is a grocery store. I think a lot of people would like to be able to shop within town, for a reasonable price. You don't want to have to pay through the nose to get a loaf of bread or a jug of milk. But they would like something in town that they could go to and not have to swing out 10 or 15 miles to go to a Hornbacher's, a Family Fare, a Cashwise, a Walmart, a Target, whatever. Restaurants. Right now, there's Big Irv's Bar and Grill down there. That's been a long time a stalwart. And, you're going to have that Dairy Queen grill and chill. Hey, you got a Dairy Queen. You've made it. And there's the Casey's. You can pick up a pizza, maybe some other items there. But really, I think when you start getting like 4,500, 5,000 people, you're going to want a couple other options to go to. Maybe another bar. Certainly, maybe another family restaurant or other restaurants, just to give yourself a little something different to go out to and a little different taste. And you do have a couple of you have Heritage Middle School, you have Horace High School. Families get busy, and at the end of the day, who doesn't want to cook by going to the local deli and maybe getting an 8-pack of chicken or whatever else will feed the family for the evening. So restaurants. Something else that was mentioned when I talked with the city administrator, a hardware store. Anyone that owns a home begins to realize that sooner or later you need to learn where the local hardware store is. Nuts, bolts, a kitchen sink, a garbage disposal, you name it. Cans of paint. That stuff starts coming in handy. And of course, as I said, if you're in a situation where you're suddenly putting up close to 300 homes a year, and pretty soon there's a real good chance they're going to start putting in, things like apartments. When you start getting a lot of people there, hardware store comes in handy. Maybe a veterinarian. People have a lot of animals. They love their cats, dogs, ferrets, whatever. Some folks even keep bigger animals, goats, horses, and such. So veterinarian might be something they want down there. Commercial growth would also be welcomed, I think. The city is starting to see a few more businesses move into its industrial park on the south side. And I don't think they'd turn anyone away because it means jobs for the area and, just a diversification of the tax base and of the city in general. So those are some things. So if you have a taco shop in mind, or perhaps a mac and cheese joint, or Thomas, are you looking to open a mac and cheese joint?
I'm not, but I'm sure somebody is. Although with Big Irv's, it's probably stiff competition.
It's true. It's true.
So all of this really, the big picture here is that there's a lot of excitement and a lot of things that Horace residents can look forward to in the next couple of years, but they're really trying to toe a fine line between the small town feeling and the larger city amenities like Fargo or West Fargo might have. That's
true. Right now, the growth is being handled. I think people welcome it. They're going to get another church. Right now, they have Horace Lutheran. Catholic parish is looking at moving in St. Benedict's eventually here. And, you get two churches, of course, you've got to have that Midwestern ratio. You've got to get another bar, and then, things grow.
Exactly. It all kind of spins out from there.
Right.
And that was Inform business reporter Helmut Schmidt joining us this week to discuss his latest story about all things new in Horace. Once again, Helmut, thanks for coming on this week.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. That's going to do it for this week's episode of the Inform Business Beat podcast. I'm your host, Thomas Avanella. Enjoy some fireworks this holiday weekend and check back to inform.com/business for all the latest headlines.
Inform is proud to be a part of the Trust Project. Learn more at thetrustproject.org.